demonstration was given here, which proves the point that the whole exercise was to bring the coordinated fire on the enemy, so that it becomes untenable for the enemy to stay further in the area. And you have seen all the targets being engaged by either Air Force, the attack helicopters, the artillery, the multi-barrel launch systems that we have acquired. And there were also ground-to-air missiles which have engaged the drones which were flying around and was meant to be engaged as targets. And I think I would say the results would come later, but over 98% of engagement or the fires were dot on the targets. So that was very impressive and very encouraging for both the forces, that is Army as well as the Air Force.
So that was Major General Athar Abbas, and I suppose he has responded. But he mentioned the drones, and if both of you remember, the moment this Pakistani manufactured drone Shahbaz was targeted very successfully by the Oerlikon guns, there was immediate applause, spontaneous.
I think that's true, that's true. I think that was expected, because the question of drones has been in the forefront and in the news for the last more than a year now, and so on. So the people have been clamoring that these drones should be dropped. So the moment the actual fire took place and the drone was dropped, it was automatically an expression of joy amongst all the people there, and the clapping that you heard yourself was certainly.
In fact, the Army requested some of us, and Moeed Yusuf and I were amongst the 5 lucky ones who were asked to stay back for night demonstration. And at night also we saw, and it was in fact a tremendous experience. Why? Because in the light of the day probably it's easier, but in the night operations, the operations became more visible, more significant, especially the use of technology. Right. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely. I mean, for somebody who's not a military person, it was quite fascinating to see, if I may say, especially the night display, because I mean, some of the things even they were doing for the first time, you know, and technology par excellence, where they were even talking about no voice sort of messages or orders being passed and still through the sort of laptops and others. So I think, yes, absolutely, that part, the tactical part, even in the day, frankly, I thought it was very, very impressive. And there's absolutely no doubt. And I think military people on the other side who are sitting and calculating and looking at this carefully, the message probably would be that this was a very impressive display.
Now, you see, from the Air Force point of view, I can add to this that if you remember, it was a pitch dark night, sir. It was probably the 4th of the moon, and the moon hadn't sort of come on the horizon as yet, so it was pitch dark. And for the Air Force pilots also to come where you know, the silhouette and the horizon is not visible, to come so low, and they targeted it beautifully. The guns, they operated beautifully. Anza, Oerlikons, the artillery, they all. And most important, they showed us the display as well as the acquisition of the targets through the Luna. That was very impressive. And hats off, I think, to the IT people. Sometimes they are the unsung heroes, but there was tremendous, what you call, communication synergy over there. One more aspect I would like to highlight, sir. The morale of the Pakistan Army had waned quite a bit in the final years of the Musharraf regime. And in this particular exercise, especially the two of us, I can vouch for it, who stayed behind in Khairpur, Tamewali, and had to rough it out in the temperatures of 50 plus, meeting the men, meeting the Jawans, meeting the officers. They were, you know, confident. They were smiling. Their body language showed that they are taking pride in what they were doing.
I think so. I think, first of all, anyone who is able to fire his weapon accurately and sees the effect on the target feels proud of himself, that I have been able to achieve what the training that has been given to me. So to that extent, all those who participated in this exercise and who fired their weapon systems, whether they were guns or tanks or artillery. They felt proud at that moment. But in addition to that, all other troops that were there, they saw that the Prime Minister was there, the Chief Army Staff was there, the retired officers of 4-star generals, they all had come to witness the demonstration in this heat and dust of Bahawalpur. And therefore, I think they also realized that they are with them. They are sharing their difficult problems that they are facing because of the heat and dust. So I think they were definitely proud of the fact that their efforts have been appreciated by both the senior serving officers and the retired officers and the parliamentarians who were there. So I think if I was in their place, I would also feel very proud of myself.
In fact, we posed this question to the Chief of Army Staff. And if you recall, his response was that because not only that we have brought the Army's morale back, as far as training is concerned, everybody is fully involved in the training and they were actually looking forward to it. So the spirit is a result of that.
True, absolutely. You know, I'll just say something else here. I'm working on a book right now on democratic transitions, and I'm looking at one of the things of the military mindset. You know, the military in Pakistan is very closely linked to the average society here. And I think it's not always noticed, but even the Jawan or the normal army soldier, when the military is in power, when the military gets discredited, they also feel the brunt. They're also moving around in society and listening to people say, you know, the army has messed up things.
And they can't be isolated.
Correct. So then they also start feeling brunt, although they have nothing to do with the echelons of power. So here I think with the army top brass pulling the army back to where it belongs and, you know, focusing on the training and the exercises and then putting up this display and adding to what General Kamal Matinuddin said about the Prime Minister being there, the Chief being there, I think it's a huge morale booster for them. And now suddenly as the tide has turned, they also feel much more comfortable in this society. So all of that combined, I mean, I think when the Chief said what he did, I think he was absolutely right, and one could sense that.
So we are coming to the end of this program, and like all good things must come to an end, so must this program, although we have had a very interesting discussion. What would be your concluding comments regarding the Azm-e-Naw-3 exercise and the new army which we are seeing?
Well, first of all, I must say that my fears that the army today is so involved in internal security duties and in politics, that fear has been removed. And because I now realize that the army has the ability and professional capability to be able to defend itself, which it has shown in this exercise Azm-e-Naw, and that they can defend the country despite the fact that they are involved in internal security duties. So that fear has been removed.
Moeed Yusuf, your concluding comments.
I think perhaps to me the most impressive thing or the most positive thing is this joint part of this exercise. I mean, the Air Force is very much now part of this. I think there is a change even in the mindset and the outlook of the army, and unfortunately historically we've had a bit of a inter-service sort of rivalry, and you know, there's been problems of jointness. So I think that's very much there. The nature of war has changed in a way that any good military now has to be integrated and has to have a joint plan. So that to me was probably the highlight. And the second one, as I've already mentioned before, that it's very, very fortunate and good for Pakistan to see the army signaling that it's back to where it belongs, and politics is best fought out by the civilian masters rather than the military itself.
Right. So viewers, with that we come to the end of the program. I would like to thank our worthy participants, Lt.Gen General Kamal Matinuddin and our political scientist Moeed Yusuf, and end on the note that it was a redeeming factor. Both our participants brought this out. General Kamal Matinuddin concluded that he is satisfied